Who's the rubber and who's the glue? We're going to talk about that and so much more in just a second on the upper deck. Hello and welcome to another Sunday Fun Day with us on the upper deck. How you doing, Ciara?
I mean, I feel really good. We won a game in extra innings last night, so I don't know. You guys know I'm overly positive when it comes to the Yankees, and I'm trying to be positive for all of us. So I feel like that was the game that we needed to win. How are you feeling today, Lynn?
I'm definitely feeling better than I felt Friday night and Monday night and Tuesday night, um, and
Every other
Wednesday
night.
night. And definitely, it wouldn't have taken much, but boy, that what they did last night, I think had us all just, what a way to win. And but of course, and I'm going to put this up here. It wasn't an easy journey to last night, and I just thought when I saw Codify post this, I said, "Oh, he got a copy of my EKG from my last doctor's visit," because this is me watching any Yankee game. Um, but this really was a cool graphic of like what the game was. They're winning, we're winning, we catch up, they catch up, we're neck and neck, we're down again, and then that meteor that last spike at the end was really just the icing on the cake.
Yeah,
So,
I remember I think it was the ninth inning when the Yankees were up to bat. There was a little thing at the bottom of the screen. It said 16% win probability.
yep, and here it is. Yep,
And I was like, oh my
here,
God.
yep. Yeah, I know. And then there we go. That the 10th inning told the tale and sealed the deal. Um, so I think we have no choice but to talk about the Mets for a hot second. Um, um, First of all, total embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to lose a series, and we've been embarrassed a lot this season so far, as it is. But they've swept us. They've won both series in this year. Um,
Hmm.
I can't remember the last time that happened, but they swept us two times. And here I was after the last Met series, like, oh, you just wait till you get to our house. And yeah, that worked out. So um I just needed to vent. I don't know if you have any, takeaways about it or
Listen, congrats to the Mets, okay? They swept us. They swept us in the regular season. They can hang their banner now that says "Swept the New York Yankees." They played better. They obviously, and this is, and when I say this, because I made this tweet and Mets fans took this as me being negative towards them, and I was not. I was actually praising them. They cared more about the Subway Series, or at least the way they played looked like they cared more about the Subway Series than the Yankees did. And that's an embarrassment for the Yankees. We should always care about the Subway Series. It is our crosstown rival, it is the battle of the boroughs. And if we don't play with intensity in that series, and I don't care what any other Yankees fan says, that is a rivalry that matters. We need to win those games.
absolutely. And thank you for saying that because I well, technically my parents' house was 2 blocks over the Bronx line, but I grew up in the Bronx because that's where I went to school. I think it's clear in my accent. And this is a really, really huge deal if you live in the boroughs, for one thing. And the world of baseball is aware of it, and it's just it just was not good walking in the next day at work and seeing all the emails flying in from people that are Mets fans. So just there's just no excuse, but it's just another
No.
series. On paper, it's just another series failure. And there have been way too many of those. And let me tell you, this chat is a poppin'. and people were in here before the doors opened. So hey, CT, you get the attendance award this year. Hey, Nosebleed, and Lori, you were right there in second and third place. And also, I see Gregory, and you know what, Gregory, I'm with you. Um, I would really caution you against saying "turn the page" because it makes you sound a little boonish, and nobody wants that. We're with you all the way on that, Gregory. Jared, hey, and who else do we got here? Oh, and Sean, good to see you. And I know others are going to be coming in. So um, I think that we need to start like we always do, um, when just to get rid of the Mets altogether. Here's Spencer's trivia question of the week. Many older Yankee fans will remember when there was the traditional Mayor's Trophy exhibition game against the Mets. What year was the first Mayor's Trophy game and which team won? So there it is to think about. As always, we'll give you the answer at the end of the show. Um, and and yeah, I can't give you the year because that's part of the answer, but you have to be of a certain age or really know your Yankees trivia and history to know this. All right, so we'll see if anyone could give a take on that one by the end of the show. Um, but I know we need to jump right to Tuesday's trade deadline because it's all anyone's thinking about. Um, so and yep, and the and the chat is already on it. Let's talk about Chisholm.
Yeah, I like the Jazz Chisholm trade. I know there was reports going around, and a lot of Yankees fans saying they don't want him because of his attitude, because of his clubhouse cancer. And I think it's really hard for us to sit there and say that when we have Verdugo on our team, when we have Stroman on our team. Those are guys that you would have never thought would have been New York Yankees. I think Jazz is going to bring a flair that we need right now. The team has been so down and out. And honestly, I thought after the Baltimore series, right before the All-Star break and winning that series, that we would find our own flair and be able to get back up. But we're still struggling, and we need a leadoff hitter, right? So if Jazz can come in and be that guy, which I don't know if he is the answer to that, but if he can come in and be that guy, please do. And if not, it's not like it hurt us to get him at this point. He's very versatile. He can play second. He can play center field. So, those of you who hate Gleyber Torres, if he's struggling, Jazz can play second base. For those of us who are really mad at Alex Verdugo, if he's struggling, we can shuffle the outfield. It gives us options, and that's what we need right now.
Excellent point. And excuse me if I'm repeating something you said. I was busy making sure I got the comments up that you're talking about. Um, and also the fact that he is apparently a tried and true leadoff guy. Am I repeating you? Tell me I'm
No,
repeating you.
you're good. You're good.
So that would also solve a big need because we've been struggling with that now that DJ is just not the it guy for that, and that's been a game of chess as we go along, and none of it has really worked out. So it'll be interesting to see if they put him in that spot right away or not. But more than one source was talking that up about him.
Yeah, my only concern, I think, at this point with Jazz in the leadoff spot is he does have a 24.9% strikeout rate. But he can't be worse than Verdugo, Glaber, DJ, or any of the other guys that have let off this season.
Yeah, and CT. I wanted Jazz. I may not listen to Jazz, but I like to watch Jazz play. Yeah, so I'm hoping to really enjoy Jazz for the first time in my life. And so far, Lori, yeah, it seems like the clubhouse isn't making a difference this season. Um, Other than the camaraderie thing, though, I don't think that's gone away, and I think you really need that in the tough times, which this season has not, been bereft of at all. And yeah, Judd, CT brings up a good point that he has Judge as the captain, Mr. Cool, Mr. Low Key, Mr. We don't do that here. Um, so and I take what you say absolutely as true. We got to remember that, or Lynn has to remember how she felt about Stroman coming in, and he proved me wrong within a day, and that was before the season even started. So I have other feelings about Stroman later, and we'll get to that. But
Same.
oh boy, CT and D Rod are going to have a competition about with dad jokes today. I like more than one sauce too, Lynn. Pesto, marsala. Okay, awesome. I hope you have your pasta any way you want it all the time, D Rod. Um, all right, and so let's talk about some of the other trade possibilities going on out there. So what did your face look like, Ciara, when you read about Blake Snell being a possibility?
Listen, I'm good with shaking up the team and bringing in anybody, but there are two people I do not want, and one is Blake Snell because that offseason preseason drama, and we already have enough Scott Boras clients. Also, he just has that proven to me that he was worth that holdout. And number two, I don't want Garrett Crochet. Because again, you play for Chicago, buddy. Like, calm it down. Who are you to tell us that you're not going to pitch in the postseason if you don't get an extension? You just strong arm Chicago and you just screwed yourself by saying that. So yeah, I don't want Blake Snell. He can stay where he's at, or one of the other 5 teams that are looking at him can go after him, but I don't want him.
No, and Crochet was going to be my hot take, but I'm gonna say it right now. You know, he can go and make an Afghan for my Aunt Fanny, with his attitude, and how he feels like he won't ever move to the bullpen, and he will not take any break, and he has to be on the same routine. And I know that was a little bit coalish, that thing, but he has to do what's best for his health. So I don't know. He sounds like quite the devo rather. Pardon me. And in this case, I will say, clubhouse. Not a good add to the clubhouse for attitude.
No, we don't need another Carlos Rodon in the clubhouse. I'm sorry,
No,
we don't.
just do not. No, one is quite enough. Okay, and so while we're on pitching, um, what about the rumors about, or the possibility, I should say, of Chad Green coming back? How's everyone feeling about that? What do you say?
So I feel like I'm in the middle. There are a lot of people who hate it and a lot of people who love it. We know what Chad Green can do in New York, so it's not a terrible trade. However, what are we giving up for one bullpen arm? That's all I want to know. Because I'm okay with giving up people from the farm, but it really depends on who we're getting. And Chad Green to me is not worth the farm.
Who would be worth it for you for the pen? You thinking about anyone?
Anybody in the bullpen at this point is worth trading away. And I'm okay with trading away Nestor Cortez at this point. Because Nestor, we only get a good Nestor at home, and he has to be more consistent. We can't, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but like we can't be clutching our pearls every time Nestor's pitching in an away series because he only pitches well at home, and that's just it's not okay.
Yeah, and the chat is wavering between hell no and a bit mixed. And so, hey, Yankee boy, consigliere, welcome. Great to see you in the chat. So yeah, so it looks like we're not so hot on Green. So Lynn, let's pivot a little bit to the starters again, because Tyone is being talked about.
Yeah, so I like Jameson Tyone. I think what we have to remember, he's not a 1, 2, or 3 pitcher, right? Like he would be your 4 or 5. And if you look at his numbers this year, that is exactly what you need from a 4 or 5. Also, he is a workhorse. We saw what he did in New York. It wasn't like he did bad here. So if honestly, and I know I saw Nosebleed say no former players, and I would be with you, Nosebleed, but Jameson Tyone is actually he would be a decent pickup right now. But the Cubs have to package in someone else with Tyone to make it worth it for us.
Right. Yep. And I'm in your corner on that. Desiree, before you run, thank you for subbing and thank you for joining us. And we know you got to fly. There's a lot of errands on the weekends for sure. Wow. Hey, wow. Thank you so much, Consigliere. That is just amazing. It is our first. Yeah, I'm not good at this, but so much this.
It's my Taylor Swift part.
Yeah, so much this. It's even like coming from here over my Yankee logo. That's huge. Thank you so much. Day made. So and Raziel, that's fair. He doesn't have the best health history. But we're the sample size we have since he's been gone is a pretty good view. So, and when you look
but you
at
know what,
yeah,
I also wonder when it comes to health, is it a New York Yankee thing? Because look at the guys who played for us last season, who are on different teams this season, and how well they're playing. Like Harrison Bader is a great example of that. He couldn't stay healthy in pinstripes, but he's been healthy with the Mets, and he's absolutely raking over there. So is that an us thing? Like, do we just have a terrible medical staff? That's kind of where I'm at with that. But also, so Tyone, he was reliable. I just think that the Cubs need to package in maybe Nico Corner with him before we say yes.
Yeah. And I jumped on that question because no, we do not have a good medical team. Hello, Rizzo. Hello, DJ. What are they doing? They are not a proactive medical team. And I would say the same about the trainers because nobody's taking a look at warning signs, soft signs. You're supposed to know your players and be able to read them. And, I'm not saying fly them into a CAT scan machine every minute, but, just check in with them physically. Do they do physical check-ins with these guys on the regular? Sierra's saying no, and I believe her.
I'm just guessing at this point because I feel like our medical staff needs to be in prison. Like they're terrible.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think Rizzo really, quite frankly, has a case, but I'm not a lawyer and I don't want to play one on a podcast. Yeah, but it gets me all twisted. Because I do think that they really suck. And like Desiree concurs, I think I'm seeing everybody in the chat concurs with that. And Nosebleed is saying we really don't need a 4-5 starter. We need a better 2. Number 2.
I don't disagree, but there isn't a number 2 out there for us. Like if we're talking injuries, Blake Snell has already proven to be injury prone this season because he didn't have spring training. So there really isn't a number 2 for us to go get. But I mean, you're not wrong. I'm very much a Carlos Rodon hater, and I've made that very clear. So, yes. But I think we're gonna have to settle for a new 4-5 pitcher because Clark Schmidt, who was a great 4-5 pitcher, went down unfortunately. And Nestor Cortez just isn't. He's just not getting it done in the away games.
Right. Yeah. And Nestor, we were relying on him. The thing with Nestor always was, he's home. He's so much better at home. Mm-hmm. Well, that went down the drain, recently. So I would really like to see the starting lineup. It is what it is. I don't know that we're going to get a new starter. I feel in my gut that if we get an arm, it's going to be for the pen. But they gotta figure it out. And Stroman not even going through 4 last night was a big issue. And so what's going on with him? I know I can't ask the medical team what they think.
Listen, I've been a big Marcus Stroman supporter, but at one point last night, I was like, at what point does Gleyber Torres get to say to Marcus Stroman, pitch with some intensity? because he just didn't have it. He didn't have it out the gate, but he hasn't had it in his last 3 starts. He went 3.1 innings last night. In his last 2 starts, he went 5.1 innings and 4.1 innings, and he's given up 21 earned runs in those 3 starts. Like, he's given up a football score in 3 starts. That's insane to me.
And do I need to listen to schmaltz tell me like how low velo, how even more low the velocity from Stroman was last night than usual? No, I did not. I don't think there's anyone listening or in the chat that thinks they need hear Schmaltz say anything, but he will and he does. And hey, Joey Bag of Donuts, yes, you did. And did we forget Heel and Clark is coming back a little 4-5 would slide in. Perfect. We need a pen and help a big arm out. Well, Heel's been an iffy. And so I'm not feeling so solid about him. Schmidt, Ciara was telling me before the show, not until the end of the season. Could that mean next season? We don't know for sure yet. And
Joey is the biggest Rodon supporter, so I constantly make sure he knows how much I hate Carlos Rodon.
Oh, okay. Yep. So you're welcome, Joey. And glad to see you in the chat. And Raziel, I've been putting some comments up for you. Good to see you in the chat. Let's see if I missed anybody else. But all right. So let me toss a couple of other names out to you. So, all right, we have Chisholm, and we know that Chisholm could pivot between like second and outfield. But what about some others? I mean, the Rays are holding a yard sale.
The Rays and the Jays, they're just blowing it up.
They're just like, it's Christmas in August, everybody. Everything's 80% off, and we'll give you bonus guys. So, like, how would we feel about Brandon Lau? And also Rosario from the Rays.
I don't know. I would rather have Fairbanks personally, because we need those bullpen arms.
Okay.
I'm not sold on Lau. I'm not really sold on Paredes. The only guy I really care to see from the Rays at this point would be Fairbanks, because I think there's better options for us for the infield out there. And if we are really buying right now, like it looks like we are, and we are in talks with all of these trades, like John Heyman and Jack Curry are saying we are, then there are better options for us out there.
Okay. Well, we have 48 hours to find them.
Yeah, it's like Christmas Eve right now. Let's get it done.
Exactly. As usual, I get it. I'm always in the mall on Christmas Eve myself. I'm a last minute shopper. But millions of fans aren't relying on me to bring them their presents on Christmas morning. It just frustrates the crap out of me that we're always in this position. Let's wait and see how many of the good ones get snatched up. Then we'll bid in and get Jazz Chisholm.
I don't know. So normally I'm with you. Like, I think Cashman gets my nerves at the trade deadline, but this year I think Santa Cashman is going to get it done. I think Santa Cashman is going to bring us exactly what we want, just like he brought us Soto in the offseason. And I'm not a Cashman fan. I'm not defending the guy, but I think he's going to give us what we want, because I think he realizes we need to change things if we're all in this season, because he has to know, just like we know, we're not guaranteed Soto next season. If we don't show Soto that there's something special to be here for, he's going to walk. He's going to go where the money is. So that's why I think Cashman's going to get it done for us.
Yeah, and then the excuse is going to be that, we had to spend all this money at the trade deadline, so we have to let go of Soto because we can't afford him anymore.
I know. I'm not worried about that either, because we have, before picking up JD Davis, we had $102 million coming off the books next season, and I believe JD Davis would be gone as well. Hopefully they just DFA him at this point, because JD who? I'm not worried about that. I think if we do what we have to do at the deadline and then make it where we need to go, there will be money for Soto.
Okay. All right. I can't ever do the numbers, but I trust you. You're my partner and I trust you. And Sean, yes, he could be our number 2, but we don't have time to let him work up to it right now. you know, we are more than halfway through the season. We can no longer say there's plenty of baseball left to be played, and so we gotta go for whatever is like the highest leverage that's still left out there. And so and Raziel saying that Soto was an easy move. Yeah, well, fair point, but we have to keep them at all costs, and there's many reasons why, most of them obvious, and I'm going to mention that a little bit later on. Something awesome I found out about Soto. All right, so then have we solved the first base problem, third base problem yet? No, we have not.
No,
Right?
and listen, chat. I love Ben Rice. I love what he brought to this team, but he's still young and he still has time to figure it out. So this isn't me saying like Ben Rice isn't our future, because we don't know what the future holds for Ben Rice. But we have some serious issues at first and third base right now. With that being said, I think Oswaldo Cabrera has shown us life at third base, and I think he's a great guy coming off the bench. But DJ has seen better days, and it's time for us to move on from DJ. With that being said, so Luis Rengifo is the guy that everyone's talking about right now. I don't hate it. He has control through 2025. He would be another option for leadoff hitter, probably a little bit better than Jazz as far as that's concerned.
Okay.
My only concern about him is he's having a great year. What happens if he goes back to playing to his baseball card? Now he's still young, so he could still he probably hasn't hit his ceiling yet, so that's another plus. But also with Rengifo, I want Carlos Estevez in the package. Oh. I want them both. I don't want one or the other. I want them both. Because when we got Jazz Chisholm, we should have got Tanner Scott, and we didn't. I think it's too early to say he's injury prone right now. He's still so young. Like I feel like it's too easy to say he's injury prone. But there isn't a lot of options out there for first and third base, and Rengifo could help with that.
Well, what do you think? What do you think about more yard sale candidates like Mountcastle or Diaz?
I could live with it. Like I said, like I'm trying to be open-minded. I really am, because what we have isn't getting it done. Like we had a great April, May. June was terrible. And now we're just struggling. So at this point, bring me anybody but Blake Snell and Garrett Crochet. And I will, and even if I'm saying I'm not on board with them right now, like the, Paredes, all of them guys, I will get on board once they get here. I'll find a way to like them.
Yep. If I can do it, anyone could do it. And Nathaniel, hey, great to see you in the chat, saying Estevez is headed to Philly. I don't know if that's like spec or
it is. It just okay. So I totally missed that. So this trade deadline has been crazy this year. There's like things are happening.
Hey,
so look at that. I guess Rengifo will be coming by himself if we get him, which kind of sucks because I wanted them together.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of ideal partner things are being split.
So then that brings me back to the Cubs. I think the Cubs would be a good team to trade with right now because we could package multiple players. And even though the NL Central is a little bit tighter, I don't think the Cubs are going to be in it at the end of the season.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. That's a hot. Good. I mean, so hey, Strike Zone NFP. Great to see you, my friend. And so, Nosebleed saying, I guess he's still on the Estevez thing, coming off a wrist injury.
No, are you talking about? I think he's talking about Rengifo, but he was on. It was a 10-day IL. I'm not worried about it at all. I think Rengifo, because we need a leadoff hitter, right? We need a third baseman and we need a leadoff hitter. Rengifo solves both. Because while Jazz Chisholm will also help with the leadoff hitting, like I said earlier, he has a 24.9% strikeout rate. So it's still a little iffy. We haven't had a true leadoff hitter since 2009, 2010. So it's time to get that fixed.
The last name I heard floating around for starters is Flaherty. Um, so he's 7.5 with a 2.95 ERA in his first 18 starts. So small sample size. I mean, right? I mean, 18 starts. Um,
I don't know.
is
I mean, Jack Flaherty has proven himself in the past. I wouldn't hate it.
mm-hmm. But sometimes you read it from a couple of the guys you rely on, and then it's just high runs away somehow. So I don't know how real that's really in
But,
contention.
but let me ask you this, because maybe I just thinking too much into this. Do you think that when it comes to the trade deadline, some of these bigger names, they get attached to the Yankees to increase their trade value? Because I feel like that's what happens. I feel like we hear that this guy or this guy the Yankees are looking at, and then he goes somewhere completely random that you would have never thought.
Oh, so we're being used.
Yeah. I'm not saying that's what's happening with Flaherty, but I'm just wondering if with some of these guys, that's what's happening, is they're attaching the Yankee name to it. And then other teams are like, oh, no, the Yankees can't get them. So they go after them.
Yeah. It sounds like some agents we know would do something like that.
Boris.
Nathaniel's putting out Ahmad Rosario.
Look, at this point, like I said, there are only two guys I don't want on this team, and that's Snell and Garrett Crochet. I'm not against anybody, but are they even shopping him at this point? Like, is he even an option?
Well, I
I
like.
know, like Tampa has to, like they're selling everything, but don't they have to keep somebody on their team?
I don't know. Maybe they'll go all buy, BUY in the off season, and maybe they are looking to just.
And he
Um,
is like, he's a shortstop. So can he play third? Can he play second? Like, where would he fit in? Because I know the Yankees, and it hurts me to say this, that they're going to be moving on from Glaber next season, but they're not moving on from Volpe.
okay. No, and they shouldn't be. Um, they shouldn't be giving up on Volpe. And so one last thing I want to mention, and I'm pivoting off of trade rumors, is I'm pivoting into the Red Sox series itself a little bit more. So we talked about Stroman for a minute. We talked about Cortez for a minute. I want to just mention that Canely um, is looking better his past few outings. And particularly Boston comes to mind, probably because I don't have a long-term memory, and so at least I can remember that. But over his last 19 games, he has a 1.08 ERA. So whatever we were seeing at first, they were like, "Oh, please go back out on the IL forever." Seems to be he's cooking right now, so I'm hoping that we continue to see that. Um, is there anything else that we need to get off our chest? This is your last chance to say it in the chat, Ciara, about this week that was.
About the Boston series?
Or anything. Yeah, anything. I think we laid down on the Mets, but what are we really frustrated and mad about?
For me, so I've been defending Clay Holmes all season, right? For me, Friday Clay Holmes was terrible, and then Saturday Clay Holmes was like the savior. What Clay Holmes am I getting? Which one do I get? You need to make up your mind, Clay, because it's really getting hard on me out here in these Twitter streets to defend you. Okay. And then the bullpen. Okay. Who's going to pitch from the bullpen tonight? I feel like we used everybody on Friday and Saturday's game. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. Last night was a fantastic win. We won in extra innings. We did what we had to do, and it was a game we needed to win. But who is going to pitch tonight? Because I don't trust Rodon.
No, I don't think Rodon's mom would trust Rodon. And hey, Uncle Tad, it's great to see you in here. Earlier, I saw some other folks fly in, and just thanks again for being here. The thing is, I'm very personally upset with Holmes, because I made a pledge on this show that I stated to all that were listening that he is my closer, which was like a big deal for me, given how many Rolaids and Tums are still in my medicine cabinet, because he had been so consistent long enough for me to, through my teeth, say it. And here we are, right back to what you just said, Ciara. You just, he's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And you have to worry about that every single time. So I would really like him to be, you were an all-star, which boggled a lot of minds, and they were right to be boggled. Um, I still don't know how that happened, but um, yeah, he's not our closer currently. He's certainly not our road to the postseason closer, and will forever be on a quest for another Mariano. We're never going to get him, so that quest needs to stop. But Holmes ain't it, and I'll timestamp it and I'll retrieve it. I'll take it back if I have to. But no, I that's something I needed to get off my chest. So same there with you. And so so I guess everyone else is kind of cool. Starters need to pitch 5+. Well, yeah, absolutely. Um, and like anyone else, somebody's saying when Holmes, where is it here? When Holmes has regular work, he's much better. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true of everybody. But I just want to know we could pivot to him anytime. And yeah, the parade of relievers last night. Well, we could thank Rodon for that. If he could have managed to get through 5 at least, the parade would have been much shorter. And so, what does that mean for today? And Rob, hey Rob, you were the other one I was thinking of. Thanks for joining.
I'm with you, Rob. I would call up Jack Neely because Stroman only went 3 innings last night. Rodon, his last outing was great, but before that, he hasn't been that great recently. So just bring him up. It's not going to hurt at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, Sean, didn't I say Stroman? Stroman was in my head. Did I pull one of the Lynn things?
You said Rodon.
Oh my God, I was thinking ahead to tonight. All right.
Okay.
No, I do it at least once a show. And you got to say I made it 37 minutes and 53 seconds before I did it. But thanks, Sean. Yes, that's what I was talking about. And yeah, so all right. I'm glad to see that no one needed the kind of level of get it off your chest therapy that I've been feeling this week. Last night it did make it a whole lot better. So let's turn on to what I know we have a lot to say about, and that's our hot dogs. And thank God for last night, because we have a lot to say about on this one.
Yeah.
Go for it, Ciara.
So I'm gonna go straight out the gate and say my hot dog right now is Gleyber Torres, because in his last 7 games, my boy is batting 300. And you know what? It was really hard not to celebrate Gleyber in the Mets series because he showed up and he produced. Okay, when nobody else did, he had a home run in both games. And so far he's producing in Boston. He had a rough night last night until we needed him the most. He gave us those insurance runs. He gave us the 9, 10, and 11 insurance runs. So shout out to Gleyber Torres. He's also playing much better in the field. He made a few great heads-up plays this week so far. Yep. Everyone's giving Waldo credit for that play at third. Hello, Gleyber's the one that threw it to him. So shout out to my boy Gleyber. Also, Oswaldo Cabrera. He is also a hot dog right now because he made some great defensive plays yesterday. And the game was wild, okay, from start to finish. That was one of the wildest games I've ever watched in my life. But it reminded me of why I love the rivalry. But anyway, Waldo made some great plays last night, and his bat was there. So he's playing for that third base spot. He's like, hey, Boone, I'm here. Like, put me in, coach. So shout out to him.
Yep, absolutely. And Sean, you're right. Yeah, so Yara and I were talking about him before we hopped on. We're at least giving him the cocktail weenie this week. Not quite the hot dog, but is maybe it's being back at Fenway where he's the most familiar until recently. But yeah, good to see him getting on base from production. And so well, I so obviously every week it's Soto and Judge are hot dogs. They're king of the wieners, right? But I have an interesting fact to spit out. So turns out that Judge and Soto are the second duo in MLB history to each have at least 80 runs, 80 walks, and 25 homers before August in a season. The second duo in MLB history. The 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 first duo are not Yankees. So that means that Judge and Soto are the first Yankees in history, the first Yankee duo, not Gehrig and Ruth, not Mantle and DiMaggio, not whoever you could think of, but it was Norm Cash and Rocky Colavito of the Tigers was the other duo, and that was back in '61. So yeah, Soto cannot go anywhere, and that's just an outstanding stat. And you know what? They're gonna take us all the way if we manage to go all the way. They're it. And CT is saying they're so inconsistent.
Forrest is consistently inconsistent. You are correct, CT. And as his biggest fan out there, I can't even argue with you. It is what it is.
Right. Yep. And hey, Ken, great to see you. Thanks for stopping in. And Christopher Cancel. Always good to have someone join us from another fan base. We love having all sorts of voices in the chat. So thanks for being with us today. And yeah, we'll take those congratulations. I hope you have more congratulations to give us. And that remains to be seen. And so that was really it for the hot dogs. There were a total of 4 hot dogs and a cocktail weenie this week. Not a bad thing. Okay, so let's talk about the doghouse.
I have a lot.
We need a bigger house.
I'm going to start with Ben Rice just because his is a little bit easier. So Ben Rice in his last 7 games is batting .71 with 2 hits, one of them being a home run. And I said it earlier, he's young. He'll be okay. But right now he's in the doghouse because he has to make an adjustment and figure it out. And until he does that, he's in the doghouse. And I can't really. There's not much more I can say about it. And then, of course, the starting pitching. Like I don't even know where to start with that because they're all in the doghouse.
Yeah. And the other thing we talked about before the show was, even though we just said something positive about Verdugo, and he got the cocktail weenie of the week, he's also kind of half in the doghouse. So he's a little bit, on the border between the two in the neighbor. What do you want to say about that?
So I had Verdugo in the doghouse the last, I think, 2 weeks, or at least halfway in the doghouse. He's playing better in his last 7 games, but since June 14th, it's like Verdugo got neutered. Like we went back to Boston in the first series. He had that 1 good game, and then the second game, it was like they neutered him overnight. I don't know what happened, but he no longer had that dog in him. He just looks like a lost little kid. And for the sake of Doogie, because he's a free agent, and for the sake of us for the rest of the season, I really hope he figures it out and finds his swing again. But also, I really think the Yankees need to put him in the 6-7 hole, because if you look at his stats, like overall career-wise, he does the best in the 6-7 hole, not as the leadoff, not as the cleanoff hitter. And I know he was doing well with Stanton behind him, but that's a whole nother story. You have Stanton behind you. You're going to see better pitches, because who wants to pitch to Stanton? Like, that's – yeah, so I I think Verdugo will stay in the doghouse until he can consistently show us that he has that dog back in him.
Yep, I think that's right. And Joel agrees with you. And no, actually, Joel is reminding us about DJ.
Yeah,
It's
so
almost like we don't
DJ,
even have to mention him.
so at this point, DJ needs to be old Yellard because I, I give him the benefit of the doubt coming off of his injury, but he's showed us that he's never going to be the DJ LeMahieu that we knew him to be. So we just need to take him out back real quick and get rid of the rabies and replace him with someone else at third base, i.e. Rengifo.
Yep. Nosebleed is stepping up a bit for Rice by saying put him in one spot. I think
100%.
that's fair. I think that's fair. By the way, Boone is in the doghouse permanently. So that's why we don't even have to mention him. But I think this week we will be mentioning him in the doghouse. The other one who is partially in the doghouse, maybe just a paw in the doghouse, not quite as much as Verdugo, but Soto. What were you thinking, my guy? What were you thinking? Rojas is there basically doing this like he's bringing in a jet airliner in onto the runway. And how do you not see that? Or did you ignore it? And if so, shame on you. And I needed to get that off my chest prior, but I saved it for here.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to complain about Soto, right? But we have to hold him to the same standard as everyone else. 100%. When Luis Rojas, your third base coach, is telling you to stop, you have to stop because clearly he has a better read than you do. He was out by like half a mile, and I don't even know why he tried the slide. Like you were way out. But if Soto truly ran through that stop sign, right? Let's say he truly ignored Luis Rojas. There's a disciplinary issue on this team. I mean, look at Carlos Rodon. Look at Nestor Cortez. They don't want to give up the ball when they're struggling. And now this with Soto. Like, Judge as the captain needs to have a closed-door meeting and put an end to all of that. And then also Boone needs to put an end to it. And I've defended Boone all season because I truly think that we rely way too much on analytics on this team. But when it comes to that stuff, that is on Boone. You need to handle them.
100%. And Lou, nice to join. Nice of you to join us. You're coming in hot. Rojas is a terrible third base coach. And Soto's tired of losing.
But we could have lost because of that.
Let's take that. What?
We could have lost because of that. We didn't. We somehow overcame the 16% win probability. And everyone's favorite guy, Gleyber Torres, gave us some insurance runs in the extra innings. But we could have lost the game because of Soto's boneheaded move right there. And if it was anybody else besides Judge or Soto, the entire chat and all of Yankees universe would be agreeing. But because it wasn't Verdugo, it wasn't Volpe, it wasn't Cabrera, it wasn't Gleyber, it was Soto. So we're giving him a pass, and that's not right.
Right. We can't give him a pass just because he's the most popular kid in class, and everybody's teacher's pet. Everybody, including the captain, is accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert, hey, good to see you, by the way. I don't know. I couldn't listen to Boone last night. I couldn't listen to the post-game conference. And so the other piece about this is where Lynn loses a thought. I thought we had another one. I thought we had another doghouse candidate. Oh, yes, we do. Go ahead.
So we have a few. So starting pitching, which I know we've already eaten them up today, but Carlos Rodon, who's our number 2, has a 4.42 ERA. That is not acceptable for a number 2 pitcher that's being paid what he's being paid. And I understand against Tampa Bay, he had 10 strikeouts. He only gave up 1 run, yada, yada. That's one good outing is not good enough for me. He needs to do it consistently. Then we have Nestor Cortez, which we said earlier. You can't be good at home and bad away. You have to be consistent, right? You can't be consistently inconsistent. And then Stroman. You can't pitch 3-4 innings. We need you to go at least 5-6 every single outing. Okay, my guy, you gave up a football score in your last three outings. You gave up 21 earned runs. And then while the bullpen has struggled, we can't expect them to do good things when we're just constantly using them. They shouldn't have to come in the 4th inning. That's not what the bullpen does. We need you to get to the 6th inning. Please, I'm begging you.
I'm gonna let that sink in because we're begging. We're truly begging. So if you aren't gonna hold Grisham accountable, they won't with Soto.
So, I mean, that's a great point, right? But we don't know what they said to Grisham behind closed doors because you cannot sit here and say that Grisham hasn't stepped up lately. There's been a few games where Grisham is the reason we've been in it. He did great things last night. And that Baltimore series, we did not win that Baltimore series without Trent Grisham.
Yes, that's right. And last but not least, I said it, but Aaron Boone to the doghouse. We don't just call it out every week, but I know that you figured us out. So you're avoiding saying turning the page, turning the corner, and now it's all right in front of us. I really want to know where you live so I could get you a backbone for Christmas and send it to you. Get a spine, for crying out loud already. And, be more real. I've been asking for it since you've been here. And before that, it's just, I don't know. Really, you were great in the booth, not so great in the dugout. And I'm about done with him.
Yeah. When it comes to like making the lineups and stuff, I don't think Boone has too much of a say in that. But when it comes to the disciplinary things, that's all him, and something has got to give. I truly do still think we rely way too much on analytics in this clubhouse, and the front office has way too much to do with what's going on in the dugout and in the bullpen. And to a point, they are handcuffing Boone and they are handcuffing Matt Blake. But disciplinary things, that's 100% Boone. We can't allow the Rodon, meltdowns every game. We can't allow Soto to ignore his third base coach. Just those little things, those add up. And I feel like there's something going on in that clubhouse that we're not aware of right now. And they need to get it figured out because I still believe this team can win the World Series. But if they let those little things continue to happen, it's going to stand in our way.
Right. And, and so Joel's saying that Boone is handcuffed by the team that Cashman dealt him. The thing is, Joel, that Boone was given a dream of a team in many respects.
Mm-hmm.
It could begin and end by mentioning Soto, but dial it back to spring training even and the start of the season. He had a dream team on his hands. And now we're talking wild card team. That's going to pivot us to hot take in a quick hot second.
Yeah, I mean, are Judge and Soto the new Trout and Ohtani? I mean, look how long were Trout and Ohtani on the same team, and that team never won. So is that who they've become with the rest of the team around them and what's allowed to happen?
If I turn the right direction, the Pacific Ocean is in front, just 3,000 miles away. Okay.
It's right in front of you.
Thank you. But now, geography also is not my thing. I am literally on the East Coast, like 10 minutes from the East Coast. So if I turn the right direct, don't I have to turn? Yeah, I do have to turn right. You're correct. How did you know where I live? Okay, got it. Yeah, and you're perhaps that's right, Raziel. To be the anti-Girardi. But and to be fair, I was going to say what others have said many times. We really don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget who mentioned it. Chat's going really fast, by the way. That um, that the press conference, who cares what's said at the press conference? Okay, and it was you, I think. Who the hell cares what he says at a press conference? Well, frankly, I do, because I have to listen to this, crap every week, and it bothers me because it's certainly not, representative of what we're seeing. I just want an ounce of accountability out of Boone's mouth, and and just he came close this week with some like a we got to get better, so maybe some accountability with an action, like here's what we're good, here's what we're meeting and thinking about something. But I don't know. So all right, so let's switch to wild card, hot takes. So I'll start, and I just teased it. A wild card is unacceptable. I will not be okay with a wild card. It boils my blood that that's how we're already being referred to as. That, we're first in the wild card. Um, that is not something that was supposed to even be a thought this season at all. And to even hear it in the ethers and hear it dripping from that nasty mouth of Schmaltz last night was the icing on a really bad unrisen cake. And so a wild card is just unacceptable. And maybe that's not such a hot take, but it's maybe we need a segment called, what's our nervous take. But I mean, it's reality. And where would we be if Baltimore wasn't tanking? We are only one game out because Baltimore is tanking at the same time.
Mhm.
And we can't forget that, because that really shows the breaks and the gaps in this wonder team we have. And something has to be done regardless. So that's my first. Your turn.
So I just want to piggyback off that and say that I think that's a great hot take. I do disagree with it a little bit, only because if you look at last year's World Series, the Rangers and the Diamondbacks had no business being in the World Series. So I don't think wild cards are the worst thing. And I'm not saying we should take the wild card. So please don't anyone take me saying like I accept losing, because I don't. But if we get in on the wild card, I wouldn't hate it. We would also have a little bit of an easier walk to the World Series. I'm just saying. But I think that's a great hot take. So my hot take is Matt Blake. He is great at developing those clearance rack bullpen arms, but what has he done for our starting pitching? Nothing. And I can't take credit for this. My friend Joey Bag of Donuts, who was in the chat earlier, he mentioned it on a space earlier this week. When Garrett Cole was injured and he was sidelined, he was coaching the starting pitchers, right? He stepped into that Matt Blake role, and look how good 1 through 4 were doing. And then even little Cody Poteet was doing fantastic. Now that Garrett Cole is back pitching and he has to focus on himself, our starting pitching is crumbling. So, Matt Blake, you're fantastic at those clearance rack, Tim Hill, Cousins, Michael Tonkin, even Luke Weaver. But we need someone to coach our starting pitching, because that is where we are struggling right now.
Yep, that's 100% right. And Tats is making us feel better with his hot take that we will be in first in September, and we'll stay there. And
I like it.
yeah, I'll buy a whole dozen of those. And if he's saying Yankees get a deal done today, ooh, tell us in the chat who you think that might be, and if he, I'd like to see multiples of that going on today. And so I think my hot take is so everything that was just said in the last segment about Grisham is true, but I still think that he has been a much needed add, if temporary, and it is going to be temporary. I don't understand the Grisham hate. per se, and he has been clutch, like Ciara said in during hot takes. He is clutch with the Mets. He's come through in the Boston series as well. And I think, if there were room for him to stay around in any way, I would not be mad at it. And I am probably the only one in the room that feels that way. But we don't have room for him, and we need to spend money on something better. But I want to remember Grisham as a much needed addition when it really counted, who did his job more than he did not. And you can't say that for some of the quadrillion million dollar players that we currently have on contract.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think Grisham, we got him super cheap, right? He was like, they were like, you want Juan Soto? Take Grisham too. We don't need him. Here's a freebie. And I know the beginning of the season, it looked like, oh, what is this guy doing here? But he has really come up clutch when we needed him, especially in that Baltimore series. And his gold glove in the outfield, you can't discount some of the plays that he's made as well. I know he's not Aaron Judge. I know he's not, this fancy million bajillion dollar player, but he has stepped up when we needed him to, and he's a cheap fourth, fifth option for the outfield.
Yep.
So, and he's not costing us like anything. I think he's making like $5 million this year. Like that's
Right.
chump change.
Exactly. What do you think about Robert just put up?
I disagree because Matt Blake has been on paternity leave for like 3 days. The starting pitching started struggling right after Garrett Cole came back. Right. Lynn, I think you froze.
Oh, really?
Oh, maybe it's just on my end. You're good now.
Okay. Okay. So, and Robert's saying that Grisham has one more arbitration year and then he's a free agent. Okay.
And he's cheap.
Yep. So I don't know. I don't see them doing anything with that, but whoa. Okay. Rodon and Nestor need to go.
Now we're talking.
Wow. Woo! That's sizzling. That is sizzling. Okay. All right. Well, there were many nights that I would not disagree. And I hope tonight's not one of them. I hope that I'd say, oh, Raziel was so wrong before. We'll see. Yeah. And Grish would be fine if he stayed. We'll miss him when someone else gets hurt and we have no backups.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And you know what, hot take, I'm okay with trading away Spencer Jones because we have Grisham, because we have outfield depth right now.
Wow. Okay.
Why keep Jones in double A for 4 more years when we have the outfield depth right now? I would rather keep Jason Dominguez, let Jones go somewhere else, and let someone else develop him because we're not going to do it.
Wow, you know the game and you're so practical about it because and Dominguez is playing again. So he's getting ready to come back to the show. We finally have that light at the end of the tunnel, and that makes total sense. And you're getting agreement in the chat because Spence isn't ready until 2026. Yep. So I think the chat is really agreeing, with there's no fighting going on today. I like that. Kumbaya, everybody. Okay, so let's go to the next thing. I just want to mention that the Women's Baseball World Cup begins today in Thunder Bay, Canada. And today the first teams are Team USA versus Venezuela, Canada versus Mexico, and Japan versus Chinese Taipei. And so if you're interested in catching the action, you could buy game passes at gametime.sport. I'll put it in the chat, gametime.sport. And the Women's World Baseball Cup starts today and ends on August 3rd. So that is my mention on women in baseball. And let me go back up to the trivia question of the week. So I have to go all the way back up here. All right. So the question was, Many older Yankees will remember when there was the traditional Mayor's Trophy exhibition game against the Mets. What year was the first Mayor's Trophy game, and which team won? And I saw some correct answers at the beginning. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't recall who. But here we go. The answer is it happened 1963. I wasn't even born yet. That's how long ago it was. And it was at the Polo Grounds, which doesn't even exist. The Mets won that one. Oh, okay. Thanks,
Boo.
Spencer. What a great question to rub in on us the week that the Mets swept us entirely. But interestingly enough, the first Mayor's Trophy game, um, the trophy game was put into place to raise money for Sandlot baseball in the city. So it was an initiative to get some kids interested in baseball. And here we are, all those years later, still working to get our younger folks interested in baseball. So thank you, Spencer, as always, for the fabulous question of the week. And so, Ciara, any last thoughts as we start to wrap up?
Yes. So my final thoughts are I need the Yankees to win today. Okay. We need to win a series. We split with Tampa. We got swept by the Mets. It's time to win a freaking series.
Yeah.
Also, Big Daddy Stanton is returning tomorrow. So all of the Yankees fans who wanted him out of this lineup in the first half of the year because he was clogging up the lineup, you saw what happened when our guy went down in June. So happy to have him back. I know, he might not be ready to go right away because they're skipping rehab, but I have so much faith in Giancarlo Stanton, and I know he is going to give this team what they need in the second half. And come postseason, Stanton, he carries this team. So I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I am right there with you. I'm so excited to see Stanton back. I am going to like not have high hopes, high expectations. Everyone should follow my lead on that. He's just coming back. You know what that looks like for everybody. Stanton is no exception. But what a perfect time for him to be back. So that we're no longer chasing the wild card. Um, so, like every week, we just first of all want to thank all of you in the chat for being with us every week. You guys rocked. You were really rolling this week with all the comments, and we Uncle Tats is reminding us we're only 2 subscriptions away from 700. So please, like the button, like hit the like button, share this with your friends, ask them to subscribe, tell them how great we are. And when speaking of great, our brothers in pinstripes, the Pinstripe Chronicles guys, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. live. You all that are in the chat know that full well. I'm telling the world that's going to be listening to make sure to catch them. You see our follow information there. And as always, you'll have a reserved seat with Ciara and me every Sunday live at 11 right here on the upper deck. And let's go!